Buenos dias. Morning. My name is Dennis Tantanaka. I'm Senior Product Manager at VeriSign. And just to get a sense, by show of hands, who's aware, who's familiar with internationalized domain names? Please raise your hand. Okay. So for the benefit of the few, let's just really quick go into what IDNs are. So IDN stands for Internationalized Domain Names. That is, domain names that are using the non-US ASCII character, so like cafe.org with the accent E, or a Chinese domain name, or a hybrid one where on the left side of the dot we have a Japanese characters, and on the right side we have the regular ASCII characters. So we all know that when the internet was born, domain names were allowed only to use characters from A to Z, 0 to 9, and a hyphen. So that for the DNS community, in order to introduce IDNs, we had to come up with some algorithm that make the whole DNS system work backwards into just to take ASCII. So we have today the Punicode algorithm that transforms a Unicode label to an ASCII label. So effectively, when you type a cafe.org with the accent E, the DNS and the application sending the query to the DNS is actually sending this ASCII character set. So they transform cafe to xn-caf-dma.org, and that's what DNS understands. And same as the Chinese and the Japanese example. So this is a very brief IDN one-on-one, so we have a level playing field. So I'm going to be talking about, there's have been some progress in IDN, and Don alluded to those, and I'm not going to repeat those, but I will echo some of your points, Don. There's have been some progress, but still there are opportunities. And I'm going to talk about, by covering the IDN state as of today, what's the user perception, not reality, but the perception, and also some insights from research that we did last year in China and Korea. And lastly, I will end up with a call to action. So just to recollect what we did last year, I attend Rome, the workshop in Rome, and we had, at that time, 36 IDN CCTLDs delegated into the root, DNS root. We discussed there's ecosystem dilemma, who goes first to fix the problem. It's a supply-demand conversation here. There have been some awareness efforts. UNESCO and URD published the IDN World Report. We collaborated with them. We were very happy with the output. And also just mentioned the CO, the CCTLD for Colombia, but it's repurposed as a .company, launched IDNs in Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. So that is a recognition of the value of having IDNs, support IDNs. So now in 2014, we have these new GTLD programs. Today, we have more than 100 new GTLDs delegated into the root. So I'm talking about .london, .berlin, .book, .store coming soon. You can buy domain name with those TLDs. And so from those 100, 25 of those are IDN TLDs, and 16 of those are Chinese. So we have .online in Chinese, .website in Chinese, and so on and so forth. And the very first one, Japanese TLD. So as a company, at VeriSign, we are a registry, and we know DNS. We know how to deal with the IDNs back and forth from a DNS perspective. We supply those to the market. But we don't know much about the other side of the equation, which is the user experience, the application. So we did a little bit of a contest, hackathon, if you will, with our internal developer community. So we gave them, our engineers love to solve problems, so we gave them a problem. So we have IDNs. We have this usability problem. How can we fix it? And so they came up with very interesting, very creative ideas, and we are trying to review those, and hopefully this is just a stepping stone to make this event into a larger event, international one, so we can raise awareness in the international community. How can we solve, or how can we move the usability issue farther? So that's about some of the actions that we've taken. So let me just talk into the IDN usage. So of the 100% domain names in the world, about now 271 million domain names across CC-TLDs and genetic TLDs, only 2% are IDNs. And this is not a surprise. We've heard across the board that English is a de facto language in the internet. And in a .com websites, we see that almost 70% of the .com websites are in English. And across, so from Wikipedia to Italian PhD student websites, it's in English. I'm not picking on you, Tiziano, it's just fact. So why is that? When we have 50%, more than 50% of the internet population, about 1.3 billion internet users coming from non-Latin language speaking countries. So there's a disassociation right there. But let's focus on what's good, what's a positive note here. So we see across the years that IDN registrations are growing and they are being used. And when we cross-reference with language analysis in the websites, so we see interesting things happening. It's in a small scale, so you cannot see it right here, but I changed the scale on the axis, so it goes from 70% to 100%. So it's very little that we see there. These are the domain names used in Hebrew websites, so websites that have Hebrew content, and a very small percentage use an IDN for that website. But what's interesting is that we see a higher percentage of IDNs used as a redirect link. That means that presumably they're using a Hebrew domain name to point to the primary website, which has a ASCII domain name. So, and we did this across 9 months, in January and then in October, and we see an increased usage of IDNs as a redirect link, which I presume is, okay, we're testing the waters, we want to reach out to a larger market, presumably a local regional market, so we use a local language domain name in order to reach out to those customers or users or potential visitors. And here I want to echo the words of our prelude. So multilingualism, it's a strategic decision in order to reach out to potential visitors, customers, prospective clients, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to go a little bit further in saying that let's make it a full end-to-end multilingual experience, where if your domain name is the entry point to your website, why are you making maybe a language barrier if you have a domain name in a different language, in a different character set that your website is? So think about that. And so we have the same phenomena happening in Chinese, Korean, and German languages, where the increased use of redirect links with IDNs. So what we know is that, okay, so more than 50% of the internet population speaks a non-Latin language, but almost 70% of the websites are in English, and only 2% of the domain names in the world are IDNs. So let me shift gears to the user perception. And again, perception is what you think about something or someone. It's not reality, but like everybody says, perception is reality. And again, I want you to remind you, so we have the internet population right here, and just hypothetically, if IDNs in application were something that we would buy at Amazon.com or whatever online store, and customers were able to give a rating on the user experience, maybe we would get a 2-star. And not sure if you can read it that well, but let's say a Chinese user would say, I click on this link, 10fushantan.cc, and my browser transforming it to xn dash whatever. This is not where I wanted to go. Well, the 5 most popular browsers do handle IDNs very well, but in the mobile world, not so much. A Thai user would say, is this domain real? I've never heard about domain names in local language. Well, now you know that only 2% of the domain names are in local language. And a Russian user would say, I cannot use my IDN email to sign up for Facebook or Twitter, like Don gave example. 0% of the most popular websites don't allow IDN email to sign up. And across the board, we see this. I'm not going to repeat what Don alluded beautifully. So this is what the user experience, the user perception is about IDNs. So we have a negative cycle right here. So there's a poor user experience, and therefore the user are move away from that. I don't want to use it, and it just goes around and around and around, and we have to break it. So what we know is that end user of IDNs is low. The poor user experience in IDN application is a reality. We have progress, but still a lot of opportunity. And this is the end user experience is the barrier for greater adoption. So moving on to the research that we did in China and Korea. So back in the day, when internet was born, domain names, the whole internet using ASCII. So this is kind of the characterization of what it looked like. Or maybe for some internet users going into the language, they see, oh, what are these characters? I don't understand. So what we learned is that users expect domain names in ASCII, but they search in native characters. They don't search in ASCII, unless it's a English brand or something like that. And there is a low to moderate awareness for IDNs, and some are aware of usability issues, and that's why they stay away from those, and maybe they talk to their peers and say, no, stay away from domain names in local language. But they see the benefits of it, and the most important one is that it helps to remember more easily. I can share that domain name, I can spell it out. I cannot spell English, but I can spell Chinese, I can spell Thai. And we see a shift in likelihood to register a domain name in local language, which is good. And so this is the learnings. We taught them that domain names were in ASCII. That's the behavior that we taught them to do, and now we're trying to shift that. So it's a little bit of an uphill battle. And the adoption is low, but they do recognize the benefits. So here's my call to action. So as a community, registrars, registries, content creators, policy development bodies, we need to come together and think about the end user and how can we make this web more inclusive. So let's stop discussing who goes first, it's supply, it's demand, it's economics. Break the negative cycle of poor user experience. And I want to end up with this quote from Nelson Mandela, which says, if you talk to a man in a language that he understands, it will go to his head. If you talk to a man in his language, it will go to his heart. So let's make the internet more inclusive. Let's keep building a more inclusive multilingual web for everyone. Thank you.